Morning, sir.
How are you, sir?
We're doing
How
good.
are you doing?
We're doing good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Thank you for hosting us.
We gladly welcome your visit, your virtual visit to the space agency, and hopefully you will derive educational value from this session, and hopefully we will also derive educational value from engaging with you, because we always get insights from engaging with particular segments of society.
But it's bad because of now this thing is happening online. You know, it should be in the office. It should be there with telescopes and stuff.
Yeah, we will try and make it more visual.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can even clarify some issues that generally members of the public have about the work that we do versus the work that is done in other fields that are very closely related to the work we do, like astronomy. Yes, like astronomy. Yeah. Because when you talk about telescopes, I already know that we are co-located in one of our facilities. We are co-located on the same farm with astronomy colleagues that were used to be called Hartbeespoort Radio Astronomy Observatory, HARTRAO. Today they are called SARAO, which is the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. So the dishes that we use look exactly the same, and one is called a parabolic dish antenna, the other is called a telescope. So that's where the confusion comes in.
But very much, you know, very much interesting. I have a 6-year-old here with me. I think also we also arranged late because of from yesterday when we spoke. You said I must bring young people. You know, had I had enough time, I would have managed to get more. But I managed to get a 16-year-old who's very much interested in what you guys are doing. Because she has been talking about NASA this, NASA that. I said, no, man, relax. We have SANSA locally.
In fact, this session can be the first of many to come. True. It doesn't have to be the only one. So, and just speaking about NASA, just yesterday, I had a meeting with NASA because we belong to the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, where we use the platform to develop human capital. And the young lady there represents exactly what we are doing.
What you're looking
Some
for.
20-something years ago, I imagine that's exactly where I was. In fact, 30-something for me. And maybe not so long ago for Sinesi, for my colleague. But before we get into the details, let me allow my colleagues to introduce themselves, and then maybe let's allow the guest firstly to introduce themselves, then we will introduce ourselves, and
all right.
Then
the lady first. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Sina. I'm from Pretoria, and I'm a 16-year-old, and I'm very much interested in space and everything that relates space, and I'm looking forward to learn more about it, and I hope this is a very interesting session.
What are you studying? Which grade are you in?
Grade 11.
You see?
Grade 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She's in grade 11. So I'm Vince. I'm into radio. I'm into youth development. I'm into vlogging. So I do a lot of things. I'm into entrepreneurship as well, social entrepreneurship. So lately, I have this interest in studying more with regards to what is happening out there. So I've been following a lot of NASA. I've been following a lot of sort of Pretoria's very own Elon Musk, SpaceX and everything. I'm like, but then we can't be having NASA out there in in the US. Let me check what we have in South Africa, and I managed to find that we do have SANSA, and I was like, you know what? Let me just make the connection. So hence why we're here.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous stuff. My colleagues can introduce themselves, and then I'll go last. We can start with the youngest member of the team.
Good morning. Okay, we talked briefly before the session started. So, yeah. My name is Sinesipho Ngamile, or you can call me Sine. I'm from the Eastern Cape, from a small town called Eqoboqobo. I studied at the University of the Western Cape, my tertiary studies. I did geography or environmental management. I did my undergrad from 2015 to 2017, and I did my honors in environmental management in 2018. And I started working at SANSA in 2019 as a science engagement intern. So, yes.
Nice. Nice to know you, sisters.
Please.
Thank you, Sine. Johnny Rizos, the veteran.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to our guests. Happy Women's Month.
Morning.
As Dan said, I'm the veteran and the oldest member of the team.
Jeez.
I just can't see the grey hairs, luckily. By trade, I'm an electronic engineer. I studied at this Rudderput College many years ago. I started with the company when we were still part of the CSIR 23 years ago. I used to do outreach program on the sideline while I was an operator. I didn't know anything about remote sensing or GIS, which I learned at the company 23 years ago. I moved over to Earth observation, when was it? About 20 years ago. And then when we migrated into SANSA from CSIR, we formed the outreach program, which I moved into with Dan Matapula. So I'm a full-time science engagement officer with 22 years experience in the outreach program. And we're looking forward to engage with you and the youngsters in the near future.
No, thank you so much for having us today. Hey? We also want to learn, as much as possible from you guys.
More than welcome. And I was just
23 years of experience. That's a lot. Hey? That's a lot to learn from just one person.
Yes, and I was just thinking on what you were saying about the space industry, about NASA and all that. I do have a couple of videos regarding space and all that that I can share with you. And if you're interested, I can share them with you, and from there we can take.
Most definitely.
I do have your email with the communication you've been having with Dan, so I don't mind sharing these videos. And
yeah, please do that. Eh?
Possible.
Please do that. Yeah.
So, thank you very much, Johnny. That is yeah. Johnny has seen the entire development of the pre-space agency era, and from the transition from the CSIR Satellite Application Center, which makes up a part of the space agency, and right down to outreach. In fact, many children tell us that, I know him. And I say, where do you know him from? Because he goes all over the country in many schools, science festivals, career expos, and many other platforms, engaging with young people. That's the mandate we have in the unit that I lead. So just a brief background myself. So I'm from the province of Limpopo. So I speak Sepedi. And so I grew up in Limpopo for the first 23 years of my life. I have a degree in Bachelor of Science degree, measuring in maths and physics, and an honors degree in physics. Then in 1999, I completed my degree in physics. honors. That's the year South Africa launched its first satellite, the 64-kilogram satellite that Stellenbosch University launched. And in that same year, I got an opportunity to go and study at Stellenbosch University the next year in 2000. And I was trained in satellite engineering by the team that were part of developing that mission, that SANSAT, 64-kilogram SANSAT satellite. And so I spent 1 year training at Stellenbosch University for my postgrad. Then I went to track satellites for the South African government at the only facility in South Africa where a rocket has ever been launched. That is called the Overbeck Test Range. It's a Denel facility. And as you may know, Denel is the largest aerospace company in South Africa.
Nice.
But it's an entity, it's a government enterprise. And so after that, I moved to join Johnny at the Satellite Application Center of the CSIR in 2008. And then, of course, that's when I worked in the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites with NASA and other space agencies. So I've traveled quite a bit around the world. And then I joined the Satellite Application Center in the Impact Project Office, where we did studies using satellites to monitor human settlements. In fact, one of the projects that I led was the monitoring of informal settlements in the entire Northwest province. So I have traveled all over the Northwest. There isn't a municipality boardroom that I haven't been inside in the Northwest. So I worked with many municipality officials to map those informal settlements, see when they started, because we have archives of satellite images that tell us how far back, that give us the ability to go back in time to see were these informal settlements there in 1994? Did they just suddenly appear after 1994? What are the drivers that drive the development and mushrooming of these settlements? So this was very practical. And I also had an opportunity to work with users of satellite imagery in the Southern African development community, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, Namibia, you name them. I've worked with those countries in monitoring agriculture, in monitoring environment, and in capacity building. And today my unit coordinates capacity building in Earth observation in the entire country, South Africa. And that's why the conversation with NASA yesterday was happening, because that particular working group with whom I'm with NASA and the European Space Agency and other space agencies like the Indians and others, we coordinate the training of institutions in the use of Earth observation to extract value and to create sustainable development platforms in order to help meet the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. So yeah, in my personal capacity, I'm also an entrepreneur. So I'm sure we will find very great intersecting circles there, even offline.
Nice.
I do believe that these youngsters, remember, we as a continent, we are the youngest continent in the world today, Africa. So, and the strategy of SANSA today is Africa-ward. In fact, it is looking towards Africa, solving the problems that are in the continent. And I don't know if you know that the Egyptians are hosting the African Space Agency in Egypt. Yes. African Union Commission has adopted space as a priority research field to help transform the economy of the continent. And South Africa is one of the most mature space agencies, alongside the Nigerians, the Kenyans, you name it. So many other countries in the continent have their own space agencies. In fact, the youngest space agency, I think it's Zimbabwean, and I saw my good friend Paul Kagame there in Rwanda also. Yes, in Rwanda also has signed into law the enabling legislation that would make Rwanda have its own space agency as well. So space is embraced across the continent. That is why our strategy for the next 5 years as SANSA is towards an African market beyond just a local South African market, which we've focused on in our formative stages as an agency. And by the way, SANSA is turning 10 years old this year.
Yeah.
If you remember, it was launched in 2010 by Minister Naledi Pandor. So as we are celebrating 10 years, we want to build a critical mass of skills in our young people, just like when the government intervened 20 years ago with my generation to take us to Stellenbosch University, go and study in this field, trained by those people that are masters of this field. And today, SANSA works with Cape Peninsula University of Technology in developing cube satellites, the new revolution in space, where a satellite is the size of a loaf of bread. And we have 2 of them orbiting in outer space as we are talking at the moment.
Serious?
The latest, yes. The latest of which was launched in 2018 on the 27th of December, 2 days after Christmas. And 3 of our satellites have been launched in Russia as a country. So increasingly, we just did a webinar that we will share with you the link to, where we were reflecting, me and one of the colleagues who is a deputy director at the Department of Science and Innovation, the shareholder of SANSA. We were reflecting on the last 20 years of investment in space, looking at me as a beneficiary of the intervention by government, and Kaiser Moroka, the Deputy Director for Space Systems at the Department of Science and Technology. Both of us were classmates at Stellenbosch University 20 years ago, and today we are playing a meaningful role in enabling the next generation. Sinesipo said she is an intern. I prefer to call her an executive in the making, because truly speaking, these young people have infinite potential that we are trying to bring to the surface through educational programs, human capital development programs, exposure to space networks, as well as through training, dedicated training as part of our business value chain. Now, maybe, I don't know if any of my colleagues have prepared any slides, but I have just been playing with the presentation that you guys developed. Have you got any specific slides, or should I?
You can use yours, Mr. Matsapel.
Okay, all right.
I haven't done anything.
Okay, now let's look for that present. Why is it that I'm not able to see my share screen? Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing. That means, Sinesipo, are you the host?
Yes, I am the host.
Yeah, she is.
It's either you give me the right, or you go with your slides on your side. Just showcasing SANSA, how we are structured.
Okay.
I can speak to it, but yeah, you can play the slide. Yeah.
I will try to find one here. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see it?
I can see your slide.
Yes,
I can see your slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So we can just you can play the slides from your side, and I'll try and match my talk to the slides themselves. I won't see all of it because I'm not the one showing it. Our view here is blocking some of the content on the slide. But yeah, I can see we're saying we are an agency of the South African government, yes, and we also encourage cooperation in space-related activities and research in space science, while also promoting the development of human capital and providing a national service to South Africa, the government, and enterprises, as well as society in general. Next slide, Sine.
I'll just skip that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Organizationally, like I said, we must remove the old logo. Nowadays, the Department of Science and Technology, it's called the Department of Science and Innovation under the Ministry of Science, of Higher Education, Science and Technology, that is led by Dr. Blade Nzimande. So we've been merged with Higher Education and Training. So that's the shareholder. And then we have a board that the SANSA executive reports to. And then, of course, the CEO is part of the board. And then we are arranged around 4 programs. So the head office of SANSA is in Pretoria at the Innovation Hub. I don't know if you've been to the Innovation Hub.
I know it. I just feel like it is wrongly positioned, you know, because of it's by the N1,
Highway,
you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, yes,
it's by the
yes.
N1, and I feel like had it been across, you know, central place where a young person would get in, but hey, that's not an excuse. If someone wants to go there, definitely they will. But I do know it.
And we also go to schools. It's just that now we have been disrupted by this global pandemic.
Yeah.
So that is so the head office is co-located in Pretoria with the Space Engineering Division and the Earth Observation Division. So the 3 of us, we from the Earth Observation Division, where we use satellites in outer space that are fitted with very powerful cameras to image the Earth, the entire Earth system, the surface, land surface, the atmosphere, and the oceans. In fact, the satellite that went up in 2018 on the 27th of December, its primary mission is to monitor our oceans as we exploit the oceans economy, the blue economy. And South Africa is endowed with a lot of ocean. We are not landlocked, as you know, and we are trying to leverage that infrastructure to bring economic benefits for our people, and hopefully young people in the future will get employment in that blue economy, even though they come from inland. Like myself, I used to live right by the ocean for more than 8 years. So the Space Engineering Division deals with the development of satellites and works with the South African space industry to create engineering solutions that meet our unique user requirements, like ocean monitoring, that is an identified strategic area of investment. But the secondary mission of that satellite is monitoring of failed fires. And that's an instrument that was developed by the CSIR. It's called the K-line sensor, because it can pick up during failed fires potassium, which is represented on the periodic table as K. Potassium, when it's heated, it releases a signature that a satellite in Earth orbit can pick up from high altitude and then determine that there is a failed fire. Because sometimes there are other emissions that are emitted by things like mining houses or mining operations, things that are emitting heat, or power stations. They emit heat, and a satellite can mistaken that to be a failed fire because it has picked up a heat signature, because it operates in a particular wavelength range that picks up heat. And so it can misclassify a power station as if it's a fire. And suddenly you see a lot of fires in Mpumalanga, when in actual fact it's just power station. So that is the science behind it. And of course, in Hermanus, we have the space science program that deals with, if you can move to the next slide, Sine, I saw that it is more descriptive. Yes, the space science program deals with the geospace observations. You see, the laboratory of a space physicist who's working in Hermanus, it's the distance between the Earth and the Sun, the 150 million kilometer distance. That's where they monitor the near-Earth space environment where our satellites are orbiting. And the main player that is the focus of attention in the space weather forecasting environment is the Sun, 150 million kilometers away, because the Sun is a major source of energy on Earth. And as it goes through solar cycle, that is an 11-year solar cycle from solar maximum to solar minimum, it emits solar flares and some radiation that can harm satellites in outer space, especially during solar maximum, and also disrupt some of the technologies even on Earth, including navigation systems, including transmission lines that ESCOM uses to transmit electricity into our households, including power lines that transport oil pipelines, you know, from the refineries to other areas of use. So they are increasingly working with the aviation sector, because remember that there are certain routes, especially along the poles, including the route from South Africa to Australia. These routes are susceptible to high radiation. So these routes are very high risks for pilots because they easily accumulate radiation levels, and that becomes a health risk, and the pilots have to be grounded so that until the radiation level is within acceptable limits. My colleagues at Space Science deal with that, along with many other technologies, and they operate instruments that are based in Antarctica, near the South Pole, at the Sanae base. South Africa has a base in Antarctica, and they use big ships to go, icebreakers to go to Antarctica and spend months there doing research, because magnetic field lines of the Earth converge at the poles. So without getting into too much technical jargon, I wanted to just lay that groundwork so that you have a picture of how we are structured. You will notice that two parts of the applications of space technology are missing in our operation. And we have identified this in the next 5-year strategy, 2020-2025, to bring them online. The one is called telecommunications. You know, most DSTV dish on the roof of our houses receive satellite from, yes, they receive satellite signals from telecommunication satellites located 36,000 kilometers away. That is how we establish direct-to-home broadcasting of television signals by such companies as Centec, who is a national signal distributor, by such private companies as MultiChoice, who give us DSTV, and Top TV, and many other players that are coming into that market, including ambassadorial services by governments whose embassies are distributed across an entire globe. So to enable better communication between Pretoria and embassies distributed around the world, this is an application area of telecommunication that services those markets. And the other application area is global navigation satellite systems. And the most popular people identify with is GPS that we use to navigate, even having in-car navigation systems. Our cell phones can navigate using Google Maps and other applications that are emerging in that application environment. So the true value of space, of course, lies in its use. And as SANSA, we have determined that we are going to play in the space of application development, in the space of developing applications that are unlocking socio-economic benefits. You can see with this pandemic that education is moving online.
Sorry to disturb. I'm sorry to disturb. It's saying this is no longer has time limit. Oh, okay. Oh,
yes,
okay.
yeah. I think they had set us for a limit of 40 minutes, but they've just upgraded. Yeah. We will have to cut it at 11 because the three of us both have a virtual training platform from 11 o'clock onward. But we'll try and cover as much as we can in the short period of time.
That's fine. Yeah.
I was saying that I'm sure that the reason she's at home is because we are all in lockdown, and the future of education, as you can see, is going. It's online, it's home-based, and it's using digital platforms. So space is playing a meaningful role to reach those areas of our country that are very hard to reach, maybe that don't have digital access and Wi-Fi services and such related terrestrial networks that enable them to receive digitally transmitted education material. So this is another platform we are looking at. The Indians are leading in this. I know we are working with them because, you know, South Africa is in BRICS, and we work closely with our Brazilians, Russians, Indians, Chinese, and South Africa is the S in BRICS. Sine, move to the next slide. Do you have a slide on satellite ground station maybe?
Yes, I think I do. I'll just...
Oh, yeah, let's
this one.
Yes. In fact, if you go to the one you skipped on the engineering, so that we are building towards the value chain. So yes. Yeah, okay. In that space engineering, where we are developing the engineers of the future, this is a facility where you see that man dressed in blue as if he's in hospital. That is the satellite assembly, integration, and test facility. South Africa has had this facility even during apartheid. In fact, it was developed for military applications. I was trained at this facility. That is a colleague of mine. It's in the Western Cape province, in a small town called Grabo, but it's hidden. You will never see it. You can go there and live there for a whole 3 years and not even know it's there.
Serious?
Because
is it like
it was a military... Yeah. It is a high security environment. Even to get access into that environment, you require layers of security to get in.
Serious?
So what you see, yes, no, definitely. But now, since '94, we are using this facility to test the satellites before we ship them to the rocket that is going to launch them. There you see on the extreme left at the top, you see Sumbandila satellite, the 81-kilogram satellite that government funded its development. The first Earth observation satellite, really, that was developed and launched in Russia, that is funded by the government of South Africa. In fact, it got its name because as we build satellites, in order to stimulate the interest of young people, we create school competitions where the children have an opportunity to name the satellite. So a kid in Venda named it Sumbandila Sat. Of course, Sumba means Usupa, which means to point, and then Ndila in Chivenda means Tsila, or the road, lead
also
the way.
Find the way, lead the way.
Tsila. Yes. And what you see on the top right of that image there, at the top, it's at the anechoic chamber. That's where we test the satellite for electromagnetic compatibility. Remember that the satellite has multiple systems on it. These systems must be compatible with the systems that are within the rocket and operate with the other systems that it will coexist with, such that it can take emissions from the other systems that are in the rocket and other neighboring systems. So you will see many other testing chambers there, vacuum chamber, vibration chamber, where we test the satellite's ability to withstand the vibration that will happen when the rocket launches it up into outer space. And then, of course, you also see the image of the rocket where Sumbandila was launched from Kazakhstan in Russia.
Russia.
Yes, yes. Sina, you can move to the next one. Okay. Now the satellite has been tested for readiness at our assembly, integration, and test facility. That's after the engineers have developed it in a very clean environment. So now it is mated with the rocket. Now we are showing you in this image the rocket being launched into outer space. At the top of that rocket is the stage of the it's a multi-stage rocket. At the top of that rocket, is the fairing stage. That's where the satellite sits. And it's launched into outer space to orbit around the Earth, either in low Earth orbit, which is where all of South Africa's satellites were launched into, or medium Earth orbit, which is where the network of GPS satellites and other global navigation satellite systems are based. So low Earth orbit is below 2,000 kilometers. Remember that space begins at 100-kilometer altitude. So once launched into outer space, it can go to low Earth orbit below 2,000 kilometers, medium Earth orbit, which is below 20,000 kilometers altitude, and then geostationary orbit, which is just below 40,000 kilometers altitude. That's where the DSTV satellites that are transmitting, that the dish on the roof of a house is looking at. That's where they are, 36,000 kilometers away. And then, of course, once you launch your satellite, you need the ground station. That's where we have this facility in Hartbeespoort in Gauteng province. This is where we would like to receive the students from different schools to come and visit when it is safe to do so. Currently, we are not taking any visitors. You see those satellite dishes there on the ground station?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are similar to the one on the roof of our parents' houses that are receiving signals. And these ones are not just receiving, they can also transmit, but they operate in very high frequency bands like S-band, X-band, Ku-band, extended, Ku-band, C-band, extended C-band, and many other frequency bands. This is part of physics that our young people must study in school and understand the basics of electromagnetic radiation and light and frequency and the speed of light and all those wavelengths that we are learning in high school. And so it's a facility we look forward to welcoming you at. Down at the bottom, you will see the Mission Control Center. We had, Simbandila had a mission control specialist. Her name is Gladys Magagula. It's Women's Month, and ladies will be going around doing virtual activities, promoting young women coming into the field, because traditionally, as you know, this is very male-dominated field, and we need young women to come into this field and showcase their skill set, because women are highly skilled and gifted with the ability to work with their right brain, whereas we men, we know we work with the left brain.
They are colorful people.
They are very colorful. They bring flair to the whole thing, and they create value that we may have missed. And we do miss a lot because of how we are programmed to think. And this being Women's Month, we're promoting that young girls come into this field, and we profile our women in space science and technology, like the Gladys Magagula from Mpumalanga that I referred to. She's a fantastic woman, and we will share some of these resources where she gets interviewed and shares her journey. And she was also trained at Stellenbosch University in that program that I did as well. Yeah, but she also has a master's degree in software engineering. So she was part of the development of the software, which is the powerful system, the brain of the satellite that ran Sumbandila-Sat. Yes, so she knew how to interface with that satellite software from the ground. Using a laptop at her flat in Krugersdorp, she could interface with the satellite, task the satellite to take images at various locations around the world, including Argentina. In fact, she has images taken of the nuclear site in Japan where there was an explosion, if you remember, and there was a big tsunami as a result. Yes, many years back.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes. So she could control the satellite to take images of any part of the earth. And in fact, one of the most proud moments for us with Sumbandila was when it took a satellite image in Namibia, an area in Namibia called
I mean, what am I going to say after you guys said that? I mean, but then what I would like to know is, I mean, since the launch that you had from 2010 until now, what would you say are some of the most greatest, achievement, groundbreaking achievements that you guys have, came up with?
In the space, as a space agency, we have achieved quite a lot. Since the space agency was established, 3 satellites have gone up into space.
Nice.
Is it 3, Johnny? It's 2013. Yeah, it's 3 satellites. It's 2013 is the ZA-Cube-1 satellite. And in 2018, we had the ZA-Cube-2 satellite, which is the size of a loaf of bread. But even private industry, South African private industry has launched its own satellites, Cube satellites, including the one that was developed by South Africa's largest private years. Now he's a businessman in so we have had those programs engineering companies that are coming up, including engineering companies that are led by women. Astrofika is one of those companies led by Jesindaba and Khalid Manju in the Western Cape. These are engineering companies led by young people that have graduated from our universities in South Africa, engineers, including Lubone Engineering, that was part of the development of the ground segment for this CubeSat that went up in 2018. Established some very powerful partnerships across the globe. You may have seen in the media recently our agreement with NASA to develop a test case for the mission to Mars, including supporting those launches that are going to put the first woman on the moon by 2024. These are collaborative efforts that we are involved in as the South African National Space Agency. We are increasingly being looked upon by the international community as a partner because we boast more than 50 years track record from the days of the CSIR Satellite Application Center to today as the space agency, where we support launches. When the Indians were launching the mission to go and explore the far side of the moon, we supported that launch. In fact, they sent their people to Hartbeespoort Hoek that were part of the mission launch support. With all space agencies across the world, bringing the next generation of African engineers, scientists, researchers that are going to develop the future missions that are seemingly becoming smaller in size, miniaturized versions of engineering missions that will help us with internet access, that will help us with monitoring of the climate change and other phenomena that are affecting our food production. As you know, we are importing a lot more food lately because climate change is messing up with our production cycles. So yeah, we need to solve real problems.
Mm-hmm. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. You know, I mean, entrepreneurship is about solving problems, not actually coming up with something that won't add to any human needs.
In fact, the definition of entrepreneurship, if you go on Google, it is the creation of value or the extraction of value, whether it's value of an economic or non-economic nature. So this is really, and it links very well with education, which is the process of drawing out from within the young people. When I look at her, I see an engineer, I see a scientist, I see an entrepreneur, I see an investor. And that is the nature of young people we need to develop if we want to really realize the youth demographic dividend that the African Agenda 2063 talks about.
Nice.
We are a young continent. We need to use this open window. It's a launch window to develop these young people to become captains of industry in the future, like Sinesipo that is doing our executive in the making program.
Nice. Now, I think Johnny will have to answer me on this one. You know, ever since, you know, he has been traveling around for, you know, in schools and stuff. How many of young people have you, you know, managed to rope in ever since, you know, the inception of SANSA? And how do we make this fashionable to young people? How do we make this science and, you know, space cool? Because of young people are all about the cool culture, you know. How can, because for me to help her, she was the first person at 16 who came to me and say, I need you to help me. And I said, what do you want to study? And she said she wants to be an astronaut. I was mind blown. This is the first time I meet someone who says she wants to be an astronaut. She's 16. I mean, me at 16, hey, let's not go there. Let's not go there. But here's a lady at 16. She knows exactly what she wants to get into. I managed to give her, you know, a math science tutor. The guy is busy helping her, and she's now busy, you know, passing her maths and science with flying colors. But then going forward, what about to everyone, especially in the hood, in places like Hammanskraal, in places like Mokopan, you know?
Yeah.
I come off mute. What we try and do is we try and go to the rural areas as much as we can. I've traveled to most of the rural areas. My first experience in the rural area was way back in 2008 with Dan in Bochum, his hometown. That really opened up my eyes. And prior to that, it was always visiting the major cities, Cape Town, Durban, all the lovely cities. After visiting Bochum and seeing how the young learners really crave for this knowledge, and they very bright young learners, I started now exploring and experiencing the townships, and we've had a few successes in some of the learners going into the engineering field or the GIS field, where a lot of them have become GIS and remote sensing specialists. We sometimes don't even hear about these young learners becoming remote sensing specialists, engineers, which is a bit sad that we don't hear about it. I've actually I did a talk at the University of Fort Hare many years back, where one of the students at the time, I'm talking about in 2006, that's 14 years ago, I was at SciFest in Grahamstown, and somebody from the university came up to me and said, "Can you come give us a talk at the end?" Which I had to extend my trip. And one of the students at the university said to me, "I'm going to come work for the Satellite Application Center one day." And choose Bob, he actually did come work for us.
Nice.
And he's actually now working, he's working at the University of Fort Hare now. He's a professor. He's the head of department of the geography department. I had another chap from who was studying at Limpopo University. Now it's called the University of the North, if I'm not mistaken.
It used to be called the University of the North. Now it's University of Limpopo, yeah.
Limpopo, who actually came on a tour while he was at the university. He's now, he's running his own business, and he's running a science festival in Limpopo. So, you know, that's two people that I know from the rural areas that pulled out and did something. So it's not that you don't have the resources. The resources are out there, and I can see by the young girl, she's taking the interest. She just must just pursue it. And before I answer the last question about becoming an astronaut, I need to just ask one question. Do you take maths, science, and geography?
Oh, there's geography as well.
Yes. Do you take geography?
Yes.
Okay. And maths and physical science?
Yes.
Pure maths?
Yes.
Talking about pure maths, run me through, because of, I know with schools what they do, that they keep on dropping the pass percentages. How does this affect you guys when now a learner has to transition from, you know, school to varsity? Because of, you know, obviously the passing marks might have dropped a bit. Does that give you a problem when you lecture all these young kids from school?
It's a serious problem, Bravins. It's a serious problem. This is a problem that has been expressed by the universities that feed us with the graduates. They have told me, I mean, I used to teach maths at university, and the lecturers, when I go back to look at what is happening today, they tell me that, yeah, man, we're having headaches because by dropping these standards, these kids come ill-prepared. Remember, after matric, the standard at mathematics 100.
Oh, high.
The standard is steep. It's like jumping from the second floor to the ground floor. So it's a steep learning curve. That is why even learners sometimes that are passing with distinctions in mathematics at matric can struggle in the first year. First year, it's a mind shift, a change, because they are used to being looked after by teachers and caregivers who look after them, guide them. Lecturers, they are called lecturers for a reason. They give you the scope, they guide you, but they're not going to be behind you and telling you, supporting you like the teachers do. Lecturers will give you the content, the scope, and that's, so we are experiencing a huge problem. In fact, South Africa's ranking in the world has dropped ever since. And this is what, ever since we dropped the standards in mathematics and science. And that also, it's compromising our industry's ability to innovate, because we need those mathematical skill sets to develop fourth industrial revolution technologies. What Johnny didn't say in his address, we have about 3 minutes, I think. How many minutes do we have before? We have about 5 minutes. Yeah, let me, last year alone, we reached more than 25,000 learners, youth in South Africa. When we established this unit in 2013, I was appointed as its manager for the first time. In that year, first year, we engaged with only 2,000 young people in South Africa, and we didn't even cover all 9 provinces. We set ourselves a goal to stretch and grow, and within 7 years, in the 7th year, which was 2019-2020 financial year, we reached more than 25,000 young people in South Africa. And during National Science Week, we reached all 9 provinces with 18 team members of scientists, engineers, researchers, and also some of our young emerging executives that are being prepared. So we even have astronauts coming here. Last year, we had Dr. Don Thomas, former NASA astronaut, coming to University of Pretoria. I brought that astronaut here to the Sanlam Auditorium. And this is when we advertised